it was hard for me because, again, no one wants to come work at a collection agency. So I was hiring young professionals, entry-level folks, and I was trying to train them to run my company. And that is hard. Leadership is just plagued with contradictions. You can be one way or you can be another way. So we always say that leaders are tougher than tender. I'm definitely tender. I give people lots of chances. I didn't know how to interview people. I didn't know how to vet them. I was kind of like, shoelacing it. And I was just hiring people in that I thought had good personalities that would work hard. And my biggest mistake was that I held on to people too long, giving people too many chances. Whereas later in my career, when I got tougher, I'd fire fast. I mean, really fast.
What was it like hiring employees for you and making that transition from being someone who was running around like a maniac by yourself, pounding on people's doors, wearing every single hat, to stepping into more of a leadership role and bringing on employees to help grow the business?
Yeah, and this is really where the heart of building a culture is all about, right? It starts with the hiring process. And man, running a company where I was physically by myself all the time, having to make decisions as my early 20s, I made so many mistakes. I mean, like the experiences of the problems that I made for myself with bad decisions. I look back and I had to make them because I learned from every single one of them, right? So I can't regret them, but boy, oh boy, do I wish I was given some of the information that I give over to some of the people that I coach, because I could have avoided so many mistakes. But it's hard because I don't regret it, because that's what helped me become the leader that I became. And I always wanted to try to hire, and most people do this, they hire people like them. They want, mass attracts mass. And it was hard for me because, again, no one wants to come work at a collection agency. So I was hiring young professionals, entry-level folks, and I was trying to train them to run my company. And that is hard. I didn't have the deep pockets to go hire, executives, hire guns. And so I was bootstrapping the company, and I took young professionals and I did for them what my partner had done for me, and I was building into them. When I first had a team, I was in the Dale Carnegie programs. I've always been very intense about professional development and leadership programs. Early on, I started with the Dale Carnegie program, and then I ended up becoming one of the facilitators, and I taught an after-hours class with my team on our own time. They weren't paid for it. It was just to learn how to be a leader, how to public speak. And I didn't know it at the time, but those were the little things that were like building the trust and showing them that I'm with them. And it wasn't some boss sitting up on a pedestal, like I was with them and I cared about them deeply, probably too much. But I think that, the result of that was an amazing relationship that started with so many of them that 20 years later was still there. And again, at a collection agency, that at any company, it's unheard of, right? So that's what helped kind of further the efforts of building a great culture that people love to come to every day.
Can you think of any stories or examples of some of the bigger screw-ups that you had when you first started bringing people on that were big learning moments?
Yeah, well, first off, I'm very emotional, and I would take things very personal. And I think as a leader, you have to kind of separate that, and you have to find a healthy mix, and there's no right or wrong answer to that. Leadership is just plagued with contradictions. You can be one way or you can be another way. So we always say that leaders are tougher than tender. I'm definitely tender. I give people lots of chances, and I made a lot of wrong hires. I didn't know how to interview people. I didn't know how to vet them. I didn't do reference checks. I was kind of like, shoelacing it. And I was just hiring people in that I thought had good personalities that would work hard. And I learned quick. And my biggest mistake was that I held on to people too long, giving people too many chances. Whereas later in my career, when I got tougher, I'd fire fast. I mean, really fast. And to the point where people couldn't get to the interview without me saying, do you have any questions? Because I knew right away, you're not going to work out here. So I learned a lot over time. And so every leader has the curse of knowledge. You don't remember what it's like to not remember. I don't remember what it was like back then because I'm so different now than I was when I first started. So, I don't have that much recollection of the mistakes. I just know that there was lots of them, and I learned from every single one of them, and I kept getting better every single time, to the point where, 20 years in, I knew exactly what I was looking for, and I knew what filter I would not let the bar go under. And it helped protect the culture, and that's how we built such a good culture.
Going back to that negative reputation that collection agencies have, it seems very much like when you started this, and especially when you were kind of running around and grabbing business cards, like you said, and working on your own and hustling, that you were just doing what you loved and wanted to build this company. When you were hiring employees, did you notice that they were kind of nervous? Nervous is not the right word, but maybe just kind of conscious, I guess, of the negative reputation that collection agencies had? Did you have to kind of deal with that when hiring employees, or how did that manifest, I guess, is my question.
Yeah, big time. I mean, look, I had a vision early on, and so I lit people up. And I did it by leading by example, right? Like I've told you, and I've said this many times, that we had a company mission statement, and I expected everyone to jump on board with it, and it was a big mistake early on.
And the mission statement was change the perception of collections?
No, the mission statement was some crap that I threw up on the wall, like most companies do, and I expected everyone to jump on board with it and drink the Kool-Aid, and then I asked everybody what it was, and nobody knew, and I was pissed. And then they asked me what it was, and I wrote it, and I couldn't tell them. And it was because I was just trying to put words on paper. And when I got challenged by my coach to, like, don't worry about that. Like, what's your dream? What do you want to do? And I started focusing on that. I didn't realize the power behind a leader with a big dream for where they're going in their business, and how much that will light up other people in the office. And when you encourage them to do the same thing for themselves, you know, I had to get comfortable being really uncomfortable with the fact that people weren't going to be with me forever. And I created a space where it was okay for them to be that way. We used to joke, our leadership program was called Built to Lead, and I used to call it Built to Leave, because we build up these guys and then they leave, and when they used us as a stepping stone. And so we got to the point where, like, it was okay. As long as you can give me your best when you're with me, I'll give you my best. And if that's 2 years, I'm okay with that, as long as you give me your best 2 years. But I really encourage people to dream big, because you got a soul on fire. You only need a few. You don't need everybody doing it. You just need a few people in your office who can do it, and then they light up other people. If a leader's just trying to do that themselves, blowing from a megaphone, it doesn't work. You know, I mean, a culture at a company that is strong is built with chemistry on a team that trusts each other, and they go through hard times together, and they're with you. You know, they don't work against you, and they're not behind closed doors. And so letting them in is a very difficult thing for leaders to do. It just so happens that's one of my strengths. I can just be transparent, and I can let you in, and I probably share too much, and it's probably gotten me in a little bit of trouble, but I'd rather be that way than be having them wonder, like, what I'm thinking all the time, right? And so it's tough. It's you know, it's hard. You know, I always say, don't want to be a leader. Like, run, get out, just get away from it. You're by yourself, especially if you're an entrepreneur, because you got to deal with everything that everyone else can never understand unless they own a company. And you're the first one to get shot in the back. And you got to make tough decisions. And the problem with being a leader and being an entrepreneur is you have to make the decisions. And when you have a choice to make, and one's worse than the other, like, you know, have fun. You know, it sucks. It does. There's times where you have to make these decisions, and it's going to hurt your team, but you got to be able to sit there and tell them and be honest with them. And so you hope that's not the only time they hear from you.
So you had written down a mission statement on a piece of paper, and you realized in a team meeting that you were kind of full of crap with it, and that you didn't even know what it was. Can you tell me more about that story?
We used to joke and call it faux. Like, if a faux, it's like fake, you know. And it was me trying to find the corporate words and the terminology, you know, the technology and innovation and, like, all the words that you see, the buzzwords that people throw up on the walls.
You're saying that was in your mission statement?
Oh yeah,
that was on the wall or something like Okay.
It was just crap. It was so corporate, you know. And you see it everywhere today. And it was the opposite of who I am, right? And I was trying to be someone I wasn't, and it was obvious. I probably fooled a lot of people, because I can do that. I'm a sales guy, right? So I could fool my team, and, like, I buy into this. But I think.
Do you think you fooled yourself too, and
sure.
like into thinking that that was what was expected of a company of your size?
Yeah, and thank God my company had enough trust to call me out on it. Where most people.
And how big was your company at that time? Do you remember?
Yeah, I probably had 50 people with me.
Okay.
And I went on a rant in front of my entire company, and someone belted out, "So you tell us what it is verbatim." And I couldn't do it. And I remember laughing, and I had to just, you know, you have to learn how to laugh at yourself, right? And so I did. I laughed at myself, and that's when I knew. And my coach is hard. He's he hits hard, and he's a truth teller, right? So we got busy working. I first got clear on, you know, what I believe and why, answered the big questions for me personally in my life. And then I gave everyone else in my culture the opportunity to do the same thing without pushing my views and beliefs onto them. And one of our core values was to become distinct yet deeply connected. And we brought this leadership team in. We invested heavily in professional development, which was a big, big boost to the culture because they saw that we cared about them, right? And we were building into them and investing in their professional growth. And I did everything from hiring EOS, Entrepreneur Operating System, that completely transformed our company and gave everyone a leg up. We had this Built to Lead leadership development program in there, and we practiced like a sports team would practice because every team, they just, look, the problem today is the leaders who have a bad culture, they're just pointing the finger and they're pissed off that everyone's not doing what they want them to do, and meanwhile, they're the problem. And so I just was open to the fact that I was the biggest problem, and I got busy working on me, and then I just started to light up other people in the office. And we were in a leadership practice one day, and it's how Restart began in a collection agency, which was to help people get jobs so they can get back on their feet, pay their debts, and get out of debt because someone had the courage to say that they have a big dream to change people's lives.